everyone, um, welcome to my channel. Today we are talking about recommendation letter. What is recommendation letter and what does it entail? So today that's what I'm going to talk about. When you start your application for graduate school, one of the requirements is that you need to get a recommendation letter. So what does it entail? That's what we are going to be talking about today. If you have your transcript, you have your CV, your statement of purpose, you have everything, and you are ready. You need recommendation letters, or most of the schools require that you get a recommendation letter. So today we are going to talk about it. What should your recommendation letter look like? Who should recommend you? Who cannot recommend you? And also, what's the letter should have? Is it just any kind of letter? We are going to talk about it today. That's what we are going to do today. You have everything, and should your recommendation letter look like? So, when you start your graduate school application, one of the things that or one of the requirements is that you get a recommendation letter, and people get confused. What is a recommendation letter? Like, who should write it for me? How do I get one? Some people will ask you, how do you get one? So simply put, recommendation letter is a letter that you write to tell the admissions team that this person who is applying for the school should be admitted because of this reason. That is basically what it is about. You write, it's not like you the applicant writing it, but then the person who is recommending you would write it in support of your application. The person would tell admissions team that this person, I know this person, I can attest to her academic abilities, I can attest to her working ethics, so please give her admission to study this program in your school. So basically that is what recommendation letter is. And it should be written by experts. When I say experts, I mean that people who can speak to either your academic abilities, your working ethics, your working abilities, or both. So if you are a student, or you are a recent graduate or a former graduate, your professor, someone who has taught you a course back in school, someone who has known you for a semester or more, can recommend you for admissions. Or if you are working, your supervisor, someone who is higher rank ahead of you, can also recommend you for admissions. If you don't have both, but then you have a pastor, you have a community leader in your community where you stay, that person who is the leader over there can also recommend you for admissions. It is as simple as that. These are the people that most of the time, or normally, they recommend students for admissions. Then when we come to those who cannot recommend you for admissions, like your family members. If you are working for your uncle cannot recommend you for admissions because of the conflict of interest. One, this person is your uncle. Two, the person is your boss. So if he is supposed to write a recommendation letter for you, there are going to be biases. So that person cannot um recommend you for admission. Your uncle cannot recommend you, your mother, your father, no matter how educated these people are, they cannot recommend you for admissions, whether be it graduate admissions, be it PhD admissions, undergraduates. They cannot do that. Your family members, your mother, your sister, your brother, no, even if you are working for them, they cannot recommend you for admission. Number two, your friends. Your friends cannot recommend you for admission, but there's an exception to this rule. But let me just say it in general, that your friends cannot recommend you for admission for graduate school or graduate studies. This is because these are people that you play with, people that would, that like, there are biases when it comes to that part also, so they cannot recommend you. Now this is the exception. The exception is where this person who is your friend is also your boss, right? So that person is going to write the recommendation letter in the capacity as a boss, not in his capacity as a friend. So that is it. Your boss, who is also your friend, can recommend you, but then they are going to recommend you in a capacity as a boss, not as a friend. However, your friend cannot recommend you. Your wife, if your wife is your boss, your wife cannot recommend you. Your husband cannot write a recommendation letter for you. If you have a girlfriend you are working for, or a boyfriend you are working for, they cannot write a recommendation letter for you. It has to be someone who can speak of your working ability without biases, because sometimes there, as I said, there's going to be conflicts of interest. Then also, you cannot write a recommendation letter for yourself. Most of the time people think that, well, I can just go and get my office letterhead or my school letterhead and write a recommendation letter for myself. No, you cannot do that. You cannot write a recommendation letter for yourself. That is what you need to know. The reason why you cannot write it for yourself is that, just imagine you writing for yourself, you are going to be saying good things all around about yourself. But those who write it for you are people who can truly speak for you. They can truly attest to your skills, your knowledge level, how you learn, how you are able to grasp things, how you're able to resolve conflict, your teamwork skills. They'll be able to talk more about that. You cannot do that for yourself. Then, that being said, what are the criteria for writing a recommendation letter? First of all, you need to put your letter, or whoever is writing the letter for you should not use their own personal email. If they are writing in the capacity of, let's say for example, a lecturer, they should not use their own email, like their own personal email. For example, akiola@gmail.com or thisdays@gmail.com. They cannot use that. If your professor is writing it for you, it should be according to the school you attended. The email should be according to the school you attended. So if you attended, let's say, Lagos State University, it's going to be Michael what at lagosstateuniversity.edu. That's one thing you should also know. Most schools in most universities use .edu because it's an educational institution, so it's going to be .edu, not .com or .org. So whenever you are taking an email address from those who are going to recommend you, and the person is in the recommending you in the capacity of a school like a university, it should be the school email address with .edu, not .com. Admissions committee are going to critique all these things that I am saying. Then secondly, the letter should be on a school or an organization's letterhead. It should not, the letter should not be on just any plain paper. It should be on a letterhead. So if the person is writing in the capacity as a lecturer, it should be as on a letterhead. If they are writing in the capacity of an organization, it should be on a letterhead. If it is not on a letterhead, then it should be stamped with the organization stamp. It should be stamped. So this is, people try to find loopholes. I'll talk about the loopholes that people try to find on around these things later. But then, if most of the time they want it on the letterhead, not a plain paper, unless there is a situation or there is a time that the school or from which the person is sending the recommendation letter does not have a letterhead, or they don't have a .edu email. That one you can argue, but then they are going to critique it. And if you send something from an email, if somebody recommends you from an email which is gmail.com, and then they also send a letter which is on a plain sheet, they are going to like make sure they find out the roots of it. Is it something that is real? Is it true? Is it genuine? Is it fake? They are going to look at all those things. So be very careful when you ask your recommenders to recommend you. Tell them that, please, can it be on a letterhead, or if it cannot be on a letterhead, can it have a stamp? Because if it doesn't have these two things I'm talking about, then you are going to really suffer. They are going to critique it very much. Then also, the letter should have, like the way you are writing a formal letter, right? It should have a sender's address and a recipient's address with dates. If you are writing a letter, any letter you write should have dates. The sender's address, the recipient's address. If you don't know the recipient's address, for example, if you don't know the where your letter is going, where they don't know it, they can just say the graduate admissions committee, then the university name, then where it is located, then they start writing the letter. That is how it should be. It should not be just anything. You just start, I am writing to recommend. No. It should be a formal letter. It should be a formal letter. It should have the sender's address, the recipient's address, the salutation, then that heading, recommendation letter for Mr. Charles Bagby, or recommendation letter for Akiola. It should have something like that underlined. Then they start writing the letter. Now, what entails in this letter? First of all, they have to write about how they know you, how well do they know you, where they know you from, how many years it has been. So it can be something as simple as, I am writing a recommendation letter for this to your highly esteemed university. I have known this person for about 3 years in the capacity as her supervisor or lecturer at this institution. During my time of knowing her, then they continue to write. That way, they can also, when they write it this way, then they start to talk about your ability. So, for example, if this person is your lecturer, the person who is going to talk about your knowledge level, how well you're able to grasp things, how your analytical level, how you're able to make calculations, how you're able to do your tasks on time, their overall encounter with you. Do you contribute in class? Were you contributing in class? Were you not contributing in class? All these things, they have to talk about it in their capacity as a lecturer. Then, if this person is recommending you in their capacity as your supervisor at work, your head of department at work, or anything, then they are going to talk about your teamwork skills. They are going to talk about how you resolve conflicts. They are going to talk about your overall work ethics. Do you come to school early? Do you come to work early? Do you do tasks on time? Are you able to work under pressure? They have to talk about all these kind of things. So these are two different ways. So as you can see, your uncle cannot talk in this capacity for you, because he may be talking about, then he remembers that maybe your mom said something, then he he just, or he will just be biased. You get it? So it should be someone who is neutral, someone who you've worked with or you've learned under, but then this person can be is deemed neutral compared to your uncle, your family member, or your or your girlfriend or anybody at all like that. So these are the ways of talking. So after they write the recommendation letter, they write your skills. Why they can even write about a time, like for example, you are a worker. They can write about a time where there was this difficult task that nobody could do, but then you were able to do, or there was this time that there was this conflict that you were able to resolve, or there was this time that the company was under pressure to do something and you gave in your best shot. Like they can give examples or scenarios like that. They can give examples of such scenarios about you. Then from there, the next thing they should write in to end everything is more about how they should be contacted if the admissions team need any more information. So at the end of the letter, after they finish writing about why you should be admitted and all those stuff, they can say that, for example, should you need any more information, kindly contact me via email. Then they put their email address, or via phone. Then they put their phone number, and also be careful about the country code. So it should not be, for example, 0244. It should be +233 or +234. That is how the recommendation letter should be written. So you can contact me via email, via phone on this. Thank you very much. Then they write yours sincerely, whatever they are going to write, their name, then they sign. If if they cannot sign, then they can put up their stamp over there. But then it is recommended that they sign those letters, because this is an official document. This is something that is, they are certifying that it is true. So generally this is how a recommendation letter should be written. Okay, so now, as I was saying, another thing that you should know is that before you send recommendation letter, or you send an email of somebody you want to recommend, who you want that person to recommend in you, you have two options: either to waive your right to see the recommendation letter, that this is what this person wrote, or you would not waive your right. So if you waive your right, you are not going to see what they write, like what this thing rhymes. But then if you waive your right to assessing the recommendation letter, whatever your recommenders write, you are not going to see it. If you don't waive your rights, then you may, or you will see what they wrote for you. I will recommend that if you are filling out your graduate application, kindly waive your rights. Don't keep them. Don't say you want to see what they write for you. No, if you say that you want to see, then you become more suspicious. So please try and waive your rights. Remember to waive your rights before you send in that email or message to this person to recommend you. It makes it more genuine. It's more like you trust the person is going to do a good work. If you don't trust them, don't send. If you don't trust them, don't send. If you have a conflict with this person, I don't think you should send your should send them a message, or shoot them a message that you want them to recommend you, until you solve that conflict between the two of you. That's when you can actually do that. So you need to waive your rights. Don't look at it. It's not important. I don't think it is important for you to look at what the person is writing. First of all, you trust these people. That's why you want them to write a letter for you, and you believe that they are going to do a good job. But then if they ask you for the criteria of what should be done, what should I write, then these are the things that you need to tell them. You need to tell them that it should be on a letterhead. They need to give you their official email address. They also have to include their email and their phone number in the recommendation letter, it should have a recipient and sender's address, it should have a heading, it should be signed, it should be on a letterhead, and or it should be stamped. These are the things that comes with recommendation letter. If you have any question, you can also ask me in the chat. I'm going to try my best to answer them. Any question at all, you can put it in the chat for me and I will answer. So as I was saying, these are the criteria for writing a recommendation letter. Now, I said there are some loopholes and people try to take advantage of that, but then if they find out, you are gone. The first one is that people create accounts in the name of the person they want to recommend. So they are going to create an account and then write a letter and then send it on behalf of the person. Don't do that. If you do that, you may not be caught right in the beginning. You will get the admissions, you will come back, and then like you'll be in the school, then one day they tell you that, well, we just found out that this thing you wrote is fake, you wrote it by yourself, we cannot give you admission again, we are taking back our admissions and you need to leave the country. So don't do that. If for anything at all these people tell you that, well, I want you to write so that I sign, tell them, say, I can give you a sample of how it is, then you look at it and use it to write yours for me. Don't write and let them sign. It's also bad. It doesn't speak well of you. It means that you recommended yourself. That's what it means. So don't do that. Another thing is people would go and fabricate letterheads and stamps to write a recommendation letter. If you do that, you are caught. It is academic fraud. All these things I'm talking about are fraud. Don't do it. Make sure that whatever you present is genuine. It is written by people who can speak well of you. It is written by people themselves, like your recommenders wrote it themselves, not you. Don't do that. Otherwise, if you are caught, you are done. You are going to be cancelled, not just in your particular school, but then you can get a ban that you cannot apply to any school anywhere in the world. So that's just something little I want you guys to know. If you have any questions pertaining to recommendation letters, I'm here, I can answer them. Azuga says, I need a guide on how to write a proposal. Well, I don't know what kind of proposal you are talking about. If it's a research proposal, it's going to be a topic for another day. So I don't know what proposal you are talking about at this moment. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Yeah, I don't know if you can make you can elaborate more on it, then I may know what you are talking. And one thing you should also know is that, I was just looking at the comments and stuff. Another thing is that your recommendation letters, most schools are going to ask for 3 recommendation letter, not more than 3. It can be less, it can be like 2, but then it's not going to be more than 3 recommendation letters. So this is the simple trick. You can get 2 recommenders from university where you schooled, you can get 2 from there and 1 from your workplace, or you can get 2 from your workplace and 1 from your school. It is still the same thing. It works both ways. But if you feel like you want to get someone in your community, someone different, then you should get, it is advisable you get 1 from your school, 1 from your work place, at least 2 should come from these places, then 1 from anybody else that you feel can speak well about your abilities. Anybody that you think can speak well about your abilities. That is what you should be doing. And if anybody is writing a recommendation letter for you in their capacity as a lecturer, the person should talk about your accomplishments in school, what you did in school. For example, if you led a project and you did very well in that project, if you wrote a research paper, you did very well in that research paper, the person should highlight all those ones. If you also led other groups, like you were a president, you were secretary, you were any other thing that you did, positive things about you should be written. Then after, before they submit that one, so they give them the chance to I don't know what the word to use, but they use something called a Likert scale. So it's like a scale. So they'll ask them from a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think about this person's analytical abilities? So you need to tell them to give you good marks when it comes to that. So they are going to ask about analytical. They are going to ask about how you write, how you speak, how you work with people. It's a skill that they have to drag. So 0 is very bad, 5 is very good, or even 10. It can be between 0 and 10 or 0 and 5. So they are going to drag it to where they feel you are good at, or where they feel the range that they feel like you belong to. So when you are asking these people to recommend you, let them know that all these things are involved. And another thing is, you can also send your statement of purpose, submit before your recommended submit their letters. So let's say, for example, the deadline is next week, Monday. You can submit your application today. Make sure that you have entered all the names and the emails of those who are going to recommend you. Then they can recommend you before or after the deadline. So don't say that you are waiting for a recommendation letter, so you are not going to start you are not going to submit your application. You can do that. You can send everything in before they also send their recommendation letters in. Don't wait until they do it before, otherwise you may have limited time. So make sure that you have their emails, their names, their phone numbers, then you enter it. The system itself is going to send them a letter or an email, sorry, that this person has entered your name for you to be recommended for for her to be recommended for graduate studies. So they can do it on their end. You don't need to send them you don't need to collect the letter from them. You don't need to send them any extra email or anything. But then just go ahead, submit your application, then they will do it. They can the admissions committee can give you a grace period, because they know that you are not the one writing it. So don't wait for it to be written before you start the whole application process. It's going to be very tedious. It's going to take time. So these are the little things I want to share with you today on writing a recommendation letter. If you have any questions that you want to ask, I am still here. So don't wait for it to be written before you start them. I am still here. You can write it. You can write your question, and I'll be glad to answer them. I'll be glad to answer them. This is a short live video. So that's all. If there are no questions, I hope this live on me talking about recommendation letters is will help someone, will help anybody who is writing or who is looking at what to do with respect to a recommendation letter. If you have any questions, you can also send it under the comments, and I will do my best to answer them. So happy new year to everyone. I hope the first 2 days has been good, and I wish everybody a very prosperous year. Oh, don't worry, it's going to be available for you to watch. Precious. Yeah, so okay, all the best, guys. Have a nice evening. Bye bye.